Hello guys, my name is Desmond and I welcome you to my lesson for today where we'll be looking at your mathematics. So ladies and gentlemen, please do allow me to say it is very much important that I say it is very, very much important because Buddha, what I'm about to say, it's massively massively important, ladies and gentlemen, that I say a day without learning something new, it's a day wasted. By so saying, Larissa, please do make sure that by the end of each and every lesson that I conduct, you learn something new. Okay, without any waste of time, I would like to firstly make sure that everyone remembers to mute their mics from their side. If not muted, I will mute it from my side and you won't be able to communicate until the end of the lesson. Okay, I'll just quickly do that. So, good people, before I forget, what I'm going to do, it is to firstly start with teaching you all possible ways of factorizing, because in mathematics, once you master factorization, I'm telling you, you will be able to answer any question to the fullest, especially when it gets to functions, parabola. That's where you definitely have to, in most cases, factorize. So this is how you factorize Bantu Bakit. I'm just going to quickly give you an example. All the grade 10s, 11 and 12, please make sure that you listen very carefully, because there are multiple ways, but I'm just going to show you the method being used in grade 10 and also the simplest method being used in grade 11 and 12. Also, when you get to varsity, you'll still be using the same method. Maybe, let's say, for example, we are having 6x squared plus, let's say x, let's say minus 15, and this is equals to 0. So the coolies, you remember, when was it? Yesterday, we're saying you need to get two numbers when multiplied together, they can give you 15. And again, those two numbers, they can be worked out together to give you the middle term. The same principle applies, but if you remember, for example, yesterday we used to do this type of problems whereby that a value is actually an invisible one. So in that case where it's an invisible one, it's more like we're saying the a value multiplied by the c value. So it's more like a multiplied by c. Whatever value that we get, we try to find the factors of that number. For example, if you say 1 times 15 is 15, then we try to get two numbers that can give us 15. So in this case, can you see, we are not having 1 there, but we are having a 6. So that means we need to firstly say 6 multiplied by 15. What is that? 6 times 15, it's equals to, what is it? Let's say 90. Maybe let's not confuse ourselves with the sign for now and just say 90. So once you have done that, here comes a question. Which two numbers can be multiplied together and worked out to give us 90? What are those numbers? I'll also try to work them from my side. The two numbers that can be multiplied together to give 90 and can also be worked out together to give us the middle term being 1. Let me see. So this is how I'll do it. I can just say 90, maybe divided by 2. Then 2 and 45, they can't give me 1. I change, I go to 3. 3 and 30, they can't give me 1. I change and divide it by what? By 4. It's a fraction. It can't work. I go back, divide it by 5. 5 and 18, they
Sir,
can't
it's
give
9
me.
and 10.
Yes. So maybe let me quickly continue. 6 and 15, they can't give me that. Divided by 7. 7 and that, it's a fraction. 8. 8, it's a fraction. Then divided by 9. 9 and 10. Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Can you see? 9 and 10, they can be worked out together to give you the middle term being positive 1. And obviously, that's if you say a 10 and you minus it by 9. It is going to give you what is it? A positive 1, which is the middle term. I'm not sure, guys. Are you sure up to this point? Do you guys have an idea of what I was doing there? We are not yet done. Remember, we want to get to a point where we have the two factors. But what we have done up to this point, do you guys understand what I was doing there? Or is there someone who's got a question before I go deeper?
No question, sir.
No question up to this point. Okay, so now obviously we have noticed that it is actually 10 and 9 or 9 and 10 that can give us that middle term. So now we try to rewrite that using 10 and 9. How do you do that? So you still have that 6x squared, but how can you write these two values such that they end up giving you that? Is it not the same as 10x minus 9x? You still have that minus 15 there, which is equals to 0. Just make sure that you are not lost by what I've done there. As an example, let's say that it's actually 4. And let's say maybe in between I'm having 2 and then I'm having 7. So what I've done there, it is just to rewrite that using 2 values instead of 1. So it's more like you still have that 4, and then what I said is like you're saying plus 3 minus 1, because 3 minus 1, it still takes you back to 2. Then you still have that plus 7 there. That's what I've done over there. It's more like I've used these two factors to rewrite the whole of that using these two factors such that they still take me back to that. So it's more like 10 minus 9, it is still equals to that. So I haven't changed anything from that equation. I just used those two factors to rewrite it as that. I'm not sure. Are we still together up to this point? Bandla la kaNkulunkulu?
Yes, sir.
Last one to confirm.
Yes, sir.
Okay. In that case, then what you do, it is therefore, obviously you've rewritten it in this manner. What you now need to do, it is to group these items. How do you do that? So this is how you group them. So it's more like this term that has x, you group it with that term that has x, and then this one, you group it with that constant. You will notice why you have to do it that way. The reason for that is because what you now want to do is to take out a common factor there and also do the same there. I'm telling you guys, this process is the longest process of factorizing a quadratic equation, of which they expect you in grade 10 to follow this method. Once I'm done with this method, I'm going to also show you the shortest method that is being used in grade 11 and 12, of which I also adopted that method when I was still in grade 10, but it's not allowed for you to use that method. Let's see. What is the common factor there? I think 2 and x are the common factors. Because 2 goes into 6 and it also goes into 10. And you also have x, you also have x. Meaning 2x, it is a common factor where you remain with what? 3x plus what is it going to be? I think it's going to be just a 5. So it's more like what I'm doing, Bantu Bagiti. It's just to take out a common factor such that if I say this times that, it takes me back to that. If I say this times that, it takes me back to that. Then you also do the same there. You take out a common factor. So that means you are having, what is a common factor there? I think it's 3. Yes, I think is a 3. Is it 3? 3 goes into
it's 3.
is 3, ne? Yes. 3 goes 3 times into a 9. Then I can take it out as 3 into 3x. How many times that does 3 goes into 15? Let's see. Does it even go inside 15? 15 divided by 3.
5
Yes,
times.
it does. It goes 5 times. But you now need to be careful of the sign there. Who can tell what will the sign be there?
A positive. Plus.
100%. It's going to be a positive, so that when we say that by that, it takes us back to that. That by that, it takes us back to that. So always, when you get to this stage, when you take out the common factor for this and that, you should always have the same thing there. Once you have the same thing, then you are done. You are done factorizing because this is the same. Then you just write this as it is, being what? Being 2x, and also that sign. What is that sign? It's minus 3. Then you write that as it is. It's the same thing. That's why it has to be the same, because you just write it once. It's equals to 0. That's how you factorize. It's done. So the coolies, yesterday when we were saying the bigger number, the sign of the middle term, whatever, this is the process to follow. The difference is that yesterday it was very much easy because you did not have a what is it? You just had an invisible 1 there. If you have an invisible 1, it's easy. But the moment you start having a number there which could be 2, which could be 3, which could be 7, of which in this case it is 8. It's not easy, the coolies, to follow that process of saying these two numbers, the bigger number takes the sign of the middle term and whatever, because can you see, here you need to have 2x, you need to have x. Unlike before, or unlike yesterday, you just had x and x. But what makes it complicated here, it is because of that, where you need to have a number, and then a those other constants there. So this is the difficult method that I'm referring to. I'm just not sure if you guys understand what I'm talking about. So in grade 10, for example, they'll say factorize and give this maybe 3 marks, and they want you to follow that process where certain steps are allocated marks. But in grade 11 and 12, you just move from there and then you move to here. So that means they will give you that, and you need to either do all of that and they just give you a mark for that. This one won't be given any mark because this is the question. And then you factorize it to that, and then you continue until you get the final answers. So I'm just not sure if there's someone who's got a question in relation to that before I show you the other easy method. Anyone who's got a question? Someone has got the mic unmuted, but I can't hear what they ask. No question so far. Rosie?
No, sir.
No question. Okay. This is what I'm going to do. This problem that I've just done, I'll make sure to send you a summary that explains all the steps. And you will just remember to follow those steps as I've explained in this lesson. And also, luckily, this lesson is being recorded because there's no load shedding on my side. The other easier and quick step is just to use this quadratic formula, because this formula, it actually comes from the standard form of a quadratic equation. So let's say you are given this as a quadratic equation and you need to factorize it. Obviously, you need to have those factors inside the brackets so that you can get to your final answers. So what you do is to take the A, B, and C values and substitute it there. When you say equals to, or when you punch equals to from substituting on that formula, what you get is actually the final answer. Then you work it in reverse to get to the factors. Let's quickly try to do it. Let's see. What is A value? A value, it is positive 6. A B value, it is an invisible 1. And then C, it is negative 15. So let's substitute into that equation. That is why this formula, you need to know it by heart. I'm telling you guys, this formula, you only do it when you get to grade 11 and 12. But in my case, I had to force myself in grade 10 to know and understand how this formula works, because it makes it easy to know what factors you should have. So let's try to use it. Let's see. You start with a fraction button, then you say negative. What is the B value? It's an invisible 1. I'm just going to put it inside the brackets. Let's start with a plus. Then you say square root. You open your B is 1, and then you say squared minus 4 into what is A? A is 6, you close. What is C? C is negative 15, you close. You go to the bottom, 2 into A value, it is 6. Have you guys punched that and say equals to? What are you guys getting when you say it's equals to?
So 3/2.
Someone got 3/2. What are you guys getting?
2.
3/2. Okay, so now let's then go back, because we've done using a positive sign. Let's go back and use a negative sign. So you just go back and edit, you delete, and then you put minus there. You say it's equals to. What are you guys getting?
negative 5 over 3.
Negative 5 over 3. What are you guys getting? Are you also getting the same?
Yes, negative 5 over 3.
Okay. This is now where it gets interesting. Remember,
Can I
guys,
ask?
Yebo, what is the question?
Yeah, so like from yesterday, I can remember when I asked him. Usually, I think the mistake that I used to make is that when we have a plus and a minus, so the two answers, I get it's x equals to 3 over 2, ne,
Mm,
and then
mm.
O. So my question was that is it wrong or right to also say x equals to negative, like now just add a negative sign 3 over 2, because maybe that's the mistake that I've been making, to say like it's a
Oh,
positive again 3 over 2.
so it's more
Yeah,
like you're saying from this positive 3 over 4. When you
just add a
just add,
negative.
no.
A
It's
negative.
wrong. Yes, it's wrong. It's a serious bomb. The coolies. So you just need to go back to that original thing that you punched, and then you update that negative. It's going to give you a completely different answer. Nay. So
Okay, so thank you.
okay, so now this is where it gets interesting, Bantu Bakiti. Would you agree that for this thing to be x is equals to 3 over 2, it was actually 2x. So it's more like you take that 2, you attach it to x, and then you transpose that. When you transpose it, it changes a sign, it becomes minus 3, and then this was equals to a 0. And also, you do the same there. Do you agree that for this to be that in reverse, it was actually this, you attach it to that, it was actually 3x, and then you transpose that, it becomes plus 5, that was equals to 0. Do you guys agree with me on that one? Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Can you please explain again?
um let's say, maybe let me do this. Please don't allow me to continue without you fully understanding what I'm doing there. Let's say, for example, you punched on that quadratic formula and it gives you an answer of 2, and again it gives you an answer of negative 7. So now let's try to work this thing in reverse. Do you agree that before it could be x is equals to 2, that means this thing, it was actually x, this to the other side, it was minus 2 is equals to 0. This one, before it could be that, it was actually x plus 7, which was equals to 0. Does it make sense now?
Yes, sir, it does.
Yeah, so these
Yes,
are
sir.
actually your factors. So you just put them exactly as they are inside your brackets. You also take that, what is it? It's a plus there as it is. So it's done. That's how you factorize, or that's how you get the factors. But for this one, that's after you were given a quadratic equation, you punch it on the formula, then it gives you the final answers. Then you work it out in reverse to get it to the factors. So now let's get back to this one. So can you see with this one, it's done also. You just take those as they are and put them inside there. So that means you are actually having 2x minus 3. You are having 3x plus 5. Um, can you see? Is the same as that other method that we started with. I'm not sure if you guys understand what I'm trying to explain there. Does it make sense?
Yes, sir.
Sir.
Uh,
Yes.
guys, does it make sense to everyone? Hmm?
Yes, sir.
Luckily, luckily, I've checked with Mem Devu. She's our physical sciences tutor. She's also an educator by profession. Luckily, she's one of the guys who will be marking your papers with your, what is it, June exams of your final examinations. So she confirmed that when it's written in that manner, you are not able to tell whether this thing was worked out in reverse or it was worked out in the forward direction. So that means what matters the most, they are going to give you a mark there. They are going to give you a mark there. No, that one is not allocated marks, but your two final answers, they're just going to give you a mark. Whether you worked it out starting from there going upwards or from there going downwards, it doesn't really matter that much. They don't even care. But what matters the most is that did you provide the correct factors? And again, did you get to the correct final answer? So it's more like me saying there are multiple ways of killing a cat. Whichever way that works for you, you can work it out that way. Remember, you can use this method only if you are dealing with some complicated problems that needs factorization. But for something which is easier to factorize, like that one, that has an invisible one, you can easily use your head for that one. Try find two factors. When worked out together, they can give you that, and then you just have xx, and then you put in those factors. The bigger number takes the sign of the middle term, and then from there you decide on the sign of the other number. I'm not sure if you guys allow me to move on, or if you'd like for me to try and use another example. I'll just be listening from your side in terms of what you suggest.
So you can move on.
I heard someone saying I can move on. Okay, so the other thing that I would like us to actually go through is the inequality. Once we are done with the inequalities, I think we will then quickly through simultaneous equations. And then from there, starting from tomorrow, try to work out as many problems as we can. And then sometimes towards end of the week, I'm going to give you guys a test that you will need to work out. Please remember to remind me to discuss that, to quickly explain how it works, so that you know what to expect. Let me remove all of this. That with inequalities. I'm pretty much sure that you guys do confused somewhere with regard to inequalities. This is what I'm going to say. This sign is called less than. This one, it is called greater than. This one is less than or is equals to. This one is greater than or it's equals to. Maybe let me try use this example. Not necessarily an example, but this is an exam question. There it is, that and that. It's from that combo that I sent in the group. We notice this is a quadratic inequality. Most importantly, can you see the sign given? It is less than, and it is not no, this is greater than, and it is not greater than or is equals to. So always when it is just greater than, you are just going to have a circle which is not shaded. But if it was that, it was going to be a circle which is shaded. So now what you actually do, it is to try and make sure that you rearrange that in the standard form. How do you do that? Obviously, you don't want to be seeing brackets in mathematics. So that means we are going to have x squared greater than, we just work where there are brackets. We are going to have 3x. What is that by that? What is that? Is 18. Yes, I think it's 18. So that means this is what we are having. So now, can you see? You want to try and write that in the standard form. How do you do that? That means you are having x squared. You transpose. When you transpose, that doesn't change. So you are therefore having what is it? It's going to be negative 3x. You transpose that also, it changes the sign, then it's negative 18. The sign of an inequality, it remains as it is, greater than 0 there. Guys, are you sure I did not lose you up to this stage?
No, sir.
Okay, so can you see? This is where you need to factorize, and without you factorizing, you won't be able to proceed. So now the coolies, can you see? You have an invisible positive 1 there. So you can use that one of saying what two numbers can be multiplied together and worked out together to give us that. If you find that challenging, you can still work out using that quadratic thing. So it's over negative into, what is b? B is negative 3. Then you have negative 3 plus square root of b, it's negative 3 squared minus 4. What is a? A is 1. You punch it as 1 there. C, it's negative 18. You close over 2 into 1. You say it's equals to, I'm getting 6. Then I know that in one of the brackets is going to be x. There on the calculator is positive 6. Then inside the brackets you put with opposite sign. Otherwise, you can still say x is equals to 6. In reverse, you know it's x, that, and then it becomes that. Then you take inside the bracket as it is. It's just for you to get that factor there with the correct sign. And then for this side, you can go back, you minus, and then you're getting negative 3. Then you know inside the brackets is the opposite sign, which is positive 3. So that's how you can easily factorize using that quadratic formula. But now let's try use our head and see if we can get it. Let's see. Obviously, because it's an invisible one there, it means you're going to have xx. What two numbers can be multiplied together to give us 18 and still be worked out together to give us 3? Those two numbers is 6 and 3. Can you see? The coolies, what did we say about the bigger number? Do you remember?
Yes, you said the bigger number gets the sign of the middle term, I
Yeah, so
think.
that means 6 being the bigger number, it takes the sign of that middle term. Then you ask yourself a question to say, what will this sign be, such that when you say that sign times that sign, it gives you negative. Rosie, what sign will it be?
Positive.
Yes, it's going to be a positive sign. So that means when you multiply a positive by positive, it gives you positive. A negative times a negative sign, it's negative. No, it's positive. But a positive times by a negative, it gives you negative. That's how we know to say, when you say negative times a positive sign, it gives you negative. It is because of that. Let me remove all of that. So let me see if I can quickly summarize this thing. But before I even do that, once you've factorized, you therefore do what we call the critical values. What are the critical values? The critical values are the values that you write on the number line. Those are what we call the critical values, which is where you can just say x is equals to, you know this is equals to, maybe let me not take a shortcut. Let me not take a shortcut and say this is where you say x minus 6, you equate it to 0, and then you say x is equals to is positive 6. For this side, it is x plus 3 equals to 0, x is equals to negative 3. Between these two values, you need to know which one to write first. Obviously, on a number line, you come with the negative values until you get to the bigger value, being positive 6. So, can someone tell me, are we going to have the shaded circles there, or are we going to have the unshaded circles, and why?
So the unshaded circles, because of it is only like it's not an less than equal to or a greater than equal to sign.
Do you guys agree with that one? I don't trust the coolies. The coolies, Angu Tembi, I don't trust you.
I agree.
Larissa, do you agree? Vuiswa, do you agree with honorable member there?
Yes, I agree with her.
Hey, Mzozozo, nawe futhi uyavuma lapho. Hey, Mzozozo. Okay, so that correct. We are just going to have unshaded circles. A reason being, notice we're just having an inequality sign, which is not having that coming color, just not doing not step. Okay, so let's see. I'm trying to somehow summarize this thing and say, if you are having a greater than there, I'm not sure if you guys remember, if you are having a greater than, that's where you have the outwards arrows. I'm not sure if you guys remember. When I say I want to try and summarize that, I want to actually add there. Maybe let me remove all of this to create some space. I want to say, if you are having that, you are having unshaded outwards arrows, unshaded outwards arrows, and then say here, if it's less than, you're just going to have those, and also the same here. If it's less than, it is the shaded ones and then connected. Here, the shaded but outwards, the shaded outwards. Guys, do you understand what I've done there? Do you notice the difference?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Then, how you represent it as a final answer, this is where you say x between. But for this one, you're going to have x, you have that, and then it's or, you have x, you have that. Here also, you are still going to have the same thing, but the difference is that here, it's less or is equals to, it's less or is equals to. And then here is the same. You have x, you have that arrow with that, and then you have x, that arrow, that. I'm not sure if you guys understand what I'm trying to summarize there. I'm telling you guys, we can teach you this thing many times as we can, but if you do not practice it on your side, it gets to a point where every time when you have to do it, you try to remember this lesson in terms of what was explained. But if you practice it as many times as you can from your side using past exam papers, you tend to then know what to do when it's like whatever the situation may be. So I'm not sure if there's someone who can guess how are we going to represent that one. Remember, this is where you write the critical value. This is where you write the critical value. This is where you write the critical value. this is where you write the critical value there and also there. Yes. So anyone who would like to guess, how are we then going to represent this inequality? That is a final answer which is allocated marks.
So it's gonna be x is less than -3, and then or x is greater than 6.
Do you guys agree with that?
Yes, sir, we agree.
Yes, sir.
Yeah. So that means you guys do understand what's going on as far as inequalities are concerned. So one thing for sure, I will bring a question similar to that on your test that you'll be getting towards end of the week. So just make sure that you do not allow me to continue without you understanding. Maybe let me do this. Just so that you guys are well equipped, let me also explain to say when it is a situation where you represent it as less than, which is not, it's equals to, and also a less than or greater than. Sometimes your teacher might use the brackets. Where, for example, they say x, it is the element of, you will see sometimes they can do something similar to that. And sometimes they can say x, it is the element of, and they do those corners. I just want to explain to you the difference. Sbusiso, these brackets, they represent the less than or the greater than. So that's where you have those brackets. But for this one with the corners, they represent this ones which is less than or is equals to, greater than or is equals to. So they fall under this side. Just in case if you are practicing and you see on the memo an answer represented as x is the element of critical value and the other critical value, or critical value and the other critical value, just know that there's a difference in which they represent the brackets. The others are just those ones, and the others are these ones of the corners. So these are the ones of either less than or greater than. These are the ones of either less than or is equals to, or greater than is equals to. Did that make sense? What is it? Bandla la kaNkulunkulu.
So,
Yebo.
so what about the one where it's x is an element of, and then it's a bracket, and then it's on the other side it's a square bracket. So it's one of both.
It all depends on the nature of the question. It all depends on the nature of the question. I might need to somehow try and look for a question that includes that. But I don't think in your grade 11 and what is it, 12, you might, even if you do, it's fine. But let me just explain what happens there. You might find that maybe you are having maybe three answers. One is maybe that, and then the other one is that. Maybe in functions, yes, maybe in functions you might find, or you might come across something similar to that. Can you see? Somehow, I'm not saying this is a valid question, but I just want you to be aware. So let's say, for example, this is where they can say x is the element of. Can you see? For this side of 1, you are having that, maybe 1, and then they do that. Can you see? For this side of 4, you are having that. Then they are going to write it as that. I'm not sure. Do you have an idea of what I'm trying to explain there, the coolies?
Yes.
So for you to fully understand it, that's if we get a valid question from exam paper and we work it out, that's when it's going to make some sense. So now, the last thing that I want us to cover in today's lesson, it's simultaneous type of equations, so that we know that kancane kancane siyavela. Let me show you guys this thing. When I say kancane kancane siyavela, can you guys see that we have covered? I'm not sure if it's blurry, Bantu Bagit. Maybe let me try to rotate that so that I can zoom and you guys will be able to see. I want to show you guys that we are almost done with question 1 of your question paper. So we have done this type of questions. We have done this one that says leave your answer in whatever. We have done this one that is square roots. We just discussed the inequalities. What follows is the simultaneous equation. Once you've successfully done that, you get to a question where they just test your mind. This question, or this part of the question, is always unique. You will never know what to expect. But almost all of those are predictable. They are almost the same in most of the question papers. So if we can successfully do that, when I say kancane kancane we are vela, we are getting closer to the next chapter, which is number pattern. I'm not sure. Do you guys understand where we are heading to? Someone said something. Was it a question before I continue? Okay, guys, a simultaneous equation. Nay, Hamisa, do we move on to simultaneous equation?
Yes, please.
Okay, let me quickly remove all of that. So let's start it maybe from the basics and not complicate it that much, and say simultaneous equation. You can only solve equations simultaneously if it's 2 or more equations. In high school, you solve 2 equations. When you get to varsity, it will be 3 or more equations. So maybe let me give you guys an example. Let's say you are having x, the other thing that you can get maybe is plus 2y. Let's say this is equals to 4. And then from there, they give you, let's say, 2y. I'm just trying to come up with an example that we can use. And then maybe say plus, what is it? No. Let me make it, yes, y. And then there, let me make it 3x and say this is equals to, let's say, 6. Yes. Let's say you are given those and the statement says solve for obviously 2 things, x and y, simultaneously. So as I've indicated, you must be given 2 equations, and this one, let's regard it as equation number 1, that one is 2. It doesn't really matter that much in terms of which one you regard as equation number 1, which one as equation number 2. Okay, so now here comes the question. What type of a maths equation is that for equation number 2? And also, what type of a maths equation is that for equation number 2? What type of a problem is that based on our very first lesson?
It's a linear equation.
How do you know it's a linear equation? And which one is a linear equation?
Both say because the variables are powered to exponent 1.
100%. Listen very carefully. Both of these equations are linear equations. Bantu bagit, always. in capital letters. Always, when you are given a linear problem, it's always easy compared to a quadratic equation. So that means in this case, since we are having a linear equations, it means it's an easy simultaneous problem to solve. But the moment you start having a linear and a quadratic, not that it's difficult, but it's a lengthy calculation. It's a bit long and you're most likely to make mistakes. But to avoid making mistakes, you need to practice some more. So now, let's see. If you are given a linear and a quadratic, we always derive equation number 3 using the simple or the easier type of an equation. So that means if I had a linear and a quadratic, I was going to use a linear equation to derive equation number 3. But in this case, because I've got both of them being linear and linear, that means I need to choose between these two linear equations. Which letter is isolated that I can use to derive equation number 3? So can you guys see? A letter which is attached to 1, it is the one that you use to derive equation number 3. So that means it is easier to use equation number 1 to derive equation number 3. You can still use this equation, but if you use this one, you might be having some fractions of which you don't want to be dealing with fractions. Let me add this so that I teach you guys how to work out fractions. Very, very much important that you remember that. So now let me quickly work out this problem. So this is how you derive equation number 3. Can you see? You just want to have a letter being equals to something. What will that something be? Already you have 4. That's why I'm going to write it. This is the one that you take it to the other side. You write it next. So can you see? That's how you easily derive equation number 3. Why do you derive equation number 3? It's because you want to take a... Okay. Who's speaking now? Who was speaking? Did you, Larissa?
No, sir, Tembis.
Larissa, was it you?
No, sir.
Who said they don't understand so that I can explain? I need to know who's that honorable member. Okay, it's fine. I will just re-explain. So remember, guys, the disadvantage of you not explain, or the disadvantage of you not saying who you are, it's because I'm going to explain, but I'm not sure if I'm covering what you don't understand. So for you to derive equation number 3, you need to have a letter which is equals to something. So between letter X and letter Y, which one is suitable to make the subject of the formula? It's always the one which is just a letter, or which is just a letter. We can't use Y, unfortunately, because can you see it has 2Y there. And we can't use a X from this equation because that X, it has 3X there. But it's easier to use from that equation and use that because it is just X, which is that one. Then you move away everything. So can you see on...
I don't know whether it is minus or words.
Wait, someone is speaking, but I think I heard something. In case if you are not able to clearly hear me as a result of a poor network, maybe from your side, don't worry that much. This lesson is being recorded. Tomorrow, I'll make sure it's posted and you guys can be able to catch up. But otherwise, for me to avoid re-explaining. Let me continue from here and say you are having x, which is then equals to that 4, and you take that to the other side, is minus 2y. So can you see, why did you have to derive equation number 3? It's so that you can say this equation number 3, you substitute it into that equation that you haven't done anything to it, which is equation number 2. So that means wherever you see x, you are going to put all of that. Let's see. We are having 2y, we are having a plus there, we are having 3. We only substitute where we see x, which is 4 minus 2y, and that is equals to 6. So now, can you see on this equation, we only have letter x. That is what we are going to solve. So you are having 2y plus, you want to remove the brackets. Remember, always when you are dealing with a math equation, the starting point is where there are brackets. You just write everything else as it is, but only focus on the brackets. How do you do that? That by that, that by that. You're having, what is that? I think this is 12. 3 times 4 is 12, minus, what is 3 times 2? It is 2y. And this is equals to that 6. So now that you've removed the brackets, you work out the like terms. Let's see. Because it's an inequality, if you remember, we used to say letters on one side, numbers on one side. So that means we're having 2 minus 6y. This is minus 4y equals 2. You are having 6. You take 12 to the other side. It becomes 6 minus 12. On your calculator, it's negative 6. Then you need to remove whatever attached to y so that you just remain with y. That's why you divide by exactly negative 4. Whatever that you do on the left, you do on the right. Why did you divide by negative 4? Is so that it cancels and you remain with y, which is equals to, obviously that cancels that, it goes once and whatever. So that one you might need, let's see, 6 divided by 4 is 3 over 2. So that means you are having 3 over 2 as your first answer. So can you see, you've already calculated or solved the value of y, but the question said solve for both x and y simultaneously. So that is why you are going to take this value that you got for y and substitute into your equation so that you can solve for x. And you normally substitute it into that equation number 3 that you derived. Let's see. So that means x, it is going to be equals to 4 minus 2. What is the y value? It is that one that you calculated being 3 over 2. So that means you are having 4 minus, I already noticed that cancels that. You have that 3. You can also punch all of that on your calculator or work it out mathematically, meaning that minus that is equals to 1. So now you have successfully solved for both x and y. I'm not sure if you guys understand what I've done over there. Does it make sense to everyone?
Yes, it makes perfect sense.
Yes, sir.
Remember, guys, just in
Yes, sir.
case if you are not able to see a full screen, just make sure that you click on the screen, on your screen, click, I don't even know how to explain it, but just click on the whiteboard so that you are able to see all the edges of my whiteboard. In that case, if you don't do that, you might only be seeing this portion of the screen, not knowing because maybe you are new. So just make sure to do that. So this is basically how you work out a simultaneous guys, I am back. I'm just not sure if you are able to see there. So, just to explain what's going on, the reason why we started our lesson at 5, it's because it's now load shedding. So that was the reason why. And that was the reason for that disconnection. Luckily, we have completed this question, which brings us to the end of our lesson for today. I'll just make sure that in tomorrow's lesson, I will start by teaching you guys how to factorize. And also, this is not the last question that we have done regarding simultaneous equation. We'll still be doing some more. But just to give you guys a taste of what you'll be facing, let me bring this one from one of the previous question papers. Can you see how it looks like? They give you that which is a linear and they give you that which is a quadratic. You need to use that linear to derive equation number 3 and use that equation number 3 to substitute it here, which is where it gets tricky. So that was just an introduction. That was just a warm up. So when we go deeper, it's going to get a little bit tricky. But one thing for sure, nothing is difficult in maths. It's just some problems, they are a bit lengthy to work out. Did I one from will be a lot of groups, so I make it way out lesson masters. And also, if you are in grade 10 or 11 or 12, make sure you join those, because that's where they'll be doing a physics which is specific for grade 10s, or life sciences or geography, the same for the other grades. So just make sure that you are joined groups. And the last one, it is the library, where everyone to be in the library. So you will remain in these groups until the end of the month. Then when you've decided to continue with us, you will then remain in the groups. If not, you will move from those groups. So before I conclude, I'm not sure if there's anyone who's got a question in relation to what we have done. But one thing for sure, the lesson is being recorded. It will be posted tomorrow. And again, tomorrow with our lesson, we'll do some fractions and solve some more of simultaneous equations from simple to complex. Anyone with a question? Bantu Bakit.
No, sir.
Hamisa, is the message still delivering? I think because of load shedding,
No question.
the message is not instantly reaching you guys. But otherwise, I heard your response. Guys, all rise in order. Thanks very much for joining. As always, my name is Desmond, and I'm out.